Hey guys, it's EJ again. And so I'm putting out a guide today for 11.2, also right before season 3. We had just got a nerf last night, so for all you who don't know, Void Volley, the new ability that we got when we shoot out the 10 bolts at someone after we Void Torn, got a 30% damage nerf in PvP. That being said, I still think that specific talent is still the way to go. I was testing on PTR this morning with all the changes, and I'm still hitting about 5 to 600,000 bolts or void bolts when I'm fully geared. So that being said, on a 18 million target, when I was dueling, I was still hitting around 4 to 5 million. If it was critting, sometimes 6 million, which is still about 20 to 30% of someone's HP. So at full gear with the 4 set, I still think Void Volley is really good. But it did take a big nerf. But our sustain damage is really good. That, just a little upfront about that one. But yeah, so I'm gonna go into a couple builds. I'm gonna go into an Archon build because Archon is also viable this next season coming up with all the buffs, and I'm gonna go into a Void Weaver build, which is gonna be based off the 4 set as well. And there's 2 variants in my opinion you can run. And yeah, so I'll go over each of that. I'll link it down below. So leave a like and a comment, and we'll get into that. So let's go ahead and start up with some builds here. So let's go ahead and just refresh all talents from start. So the priest side tree, still gonna be the same. We got no changes on the priest side, so I would recommend, whatever you're used to running on your priest side tree, go ahead and run it. For this video, I'm definitely just gonna focus on the shadow because, like, once again, the priest side didn't change at all. So obviously you go into devouring plague, your normal dispersions, your miseries, your stun, your silent. Oh, you get silence already, but you know what I mean. Yeah, your stun, and then get your next tree here is what it starts to change. So shadowy insight and this new talent called dark thoughts is really good for the 4 set of Void Weaver. So if you're playing Void Weaver, I think dark thoughts is a great thing for that because our 4 set buffs Void Blast, buffs the cooldown of Void Blast, and buffs its cast time. So that being said, if you can get a proc Void Blast on your go with, let's say you're running Ire, you get an instant big Void Blast, right? Because it's buffed, and the cast time is 20% faster. So I think for Void Weaver 4 set, this is a great talent to run. Not necessary to run. It's just, you get a 25% chance of more to get it to proc off. So pretty much every time you Devouring Plague with Screams of the Void, you're gonna get a Dark Thoughts proc most likely. So that's why I like running this talent. You're gonna go Void Touch, same as last season, increases the damage and insanity. You're gonna go Dark Ascension as Void Weaver. Once again, because it buffs all of your damage. It buffs Entropic Rift, Void Blast, and the Collapse. It also buffs your Void Volley. So, in my opinion, Dark Ascension is just really good to run. Now, this is where I've been testing on stream, and this is going to be based off your playstyle. Mental Decay got a buff. It's now 15% on Mind Flay instead of 10, and Mind Flay itself got buffed, which also means Mind Flay Insanity got buffed. So this is great for sustain damage in between goes, and in your go you do a decent amount of damage with Mind Flay Insanity. But if you're playing like a setup comp and you want a nice juicy one shot, I've been running Shattered Psyche, which stacks up really quickly when you're spamming Devouring Plagues, and then instead of doing Void Blast, you stack your Devouring Plagues, and then you Mind Flay Insanity to stack this, and it guarantees a critical strike when you get it stacked up on your Void Blast, because it buffs Mind Flay's crit, which Mind Blast, all buffs to Mind Blast also buff Void Blast. So I've been getting like 3 million critical strikes on my Void Blast right now, which is awesome. So you could run this for a big juicy one shot, especially if you're playing like with a rogue or really any kind of setup. After some testing, I swapped over back to Mind Flay, mainly for the sustain. It's a lot of sustain damage with the buff to Mind Flay and then the buff to Mind Flay Insanity. Plus, you get this 15% from Mental Decay after, like I said, after we just got it buffed. So in my opinion, I think this is gonna be better. But again, this is either option. It's just gonna come down to your playstyle and the comp you're running. Also, what's fun? It's just a fun psychic. Shatter Psyche is a fun ability. So yeah. Shadow Crash now got that baseline dot AoE dot again, like it used to, and they replaced that the maddening darkness, whatever it's called, to descending darkness. So now your Shadow Crash does more damage. Shadow Crash does garbage damage to begin with, so in my opinion, I just don't feel like it's ever worth specking into this. But you will do want to spec into the targeted Shadow Crash, not the put on the ground Shadow Crash with your cursor. Just because if you have the targeted one, if somebody blinks, for instance, it follows them, right? If a warlock teleports, it follows them. You don't ever have to worry about missing this ability, so it's really good. Dark Evangelism is a passive now that does not stack. It's just 6% all the time when you spec into it, so you don't have to channel Mind Flay for it anymore. But it's only 6% instead of 10. But I mean, baseline, right? I'll take that. It's not that bad of a trade-off, in my opinion. Now, and these are the two right here, based on what build you're running. I don't like apparition builds. I feel like it's patty, and you have to cast a lot for apparition builds. Even with the proc, you still want to get Mind Blast out there and more when you're trying to pad. So you couldn't go an apparition route, but I believe if you want to go an apparition route, you should be playing Archon, since it spawns apparitions when you Mind Flay Insanity. But for Void Weaver, I think you want to go Instill Doubt, which increases the critical strike chance of your Vampiric Touch and Shadow Word Pain. When they do crit, they do 40% more damage. So it's kind of like its own Mastermind, right? It's like a dot Mastermind, which is it kind of makes sense that they're on the same route here. So I think that's really nice just for a couple crits here and there. If they crit, they make your apparitions hit harder. So, or do you have to spec into that? I don't think you'd have to, right? I guess you do. No, you do have to spec into Phantom Menace. But either way, if they crit, they still crit and they do damage. And the apparitions, there's a little bit of pad damage on its own, and so you can just kind of spec into here and there what you want on that. Make sure you get Maddening Touch, by the way, for the 30% increase Vampiric Touch. The only thing I'm sad about is that we lost Unfurling Darkness. When you VT, you get an instant VT, and it does like 1,000,000. These talents would buff that, like Interquatus and Maddening Touch. So we lost about 1,000,000 damage on our burst. We did get Void Volley, which is stronger. But I'm gonna miss that. So, but yeah, so make sure you get that, and also for the Insanity that you get when it ticks. And then obviously Void Torrent, Void Volley. And I like to go the standard Cthulhu route with Ire, because even though Void Volley got nerfed, it's still one of our hardest hitting abilities, especially as a finisher, because you're going to use this over Shadow Word Death, right? Like if they're almost dead and you have Shadow Word Death or Void Volley, just Void Volley. Like Shadow Word Death does really little damage, even with Death Speaker. I've tested it in the Death Torment. If Shadow Word Death, which Death Speaker is not a proc anymore. It used to proc on Shadow Word Pain damage, and you'd get instant. It doesn't work like that. You just do a stronger death, and it only gets its benefit from Death Speaker if they're below 35%. So until they're 35%, it's useless. And when you use it, it does like 600,000, and then 50,000 and 50,000. So you may be lucky to get 800,000 deaths out of this thing, with them being below 35% and with your mastery up. In my opinion, that's so weak for a talent that's only usable below 35 that doesn't proc. If it procced, it'd be good. It'd be like season 3 of a Dragonflight, where you would get death procs with the 4 set that we used to have, and it would keep procking. That was fun. It doesn't work like that. Death Speaker is no longer a proc. I find it useless. It's mainly just an insanity generator, just when you use Shadow Word Death. So in my opinion, I wouldn't go this route. But Cthulhu for the slow, the insanity, and you get a guaranteed tentacle on Void Torrent and on Void Volley. So you get to get 2, which is pretty good damage and insanity generation during your go, because you get to proc 1 guaranteed, and they can proc again. So you might get 2 during your Void Torrent and then a Void Volley, right? So you might get 3 or 4 up in your go, which is a lot of damage. It's a slow, and it's a insanity generator. I still think Mind's Eye's the play. You want to get as many Devouring Plagues during your go in Entropic Rift as possible. Also gives you Mind Flaying Sanities. So I think you want to go Mind's Eye over Distorted Reality. And I like to go Auspicious Spirits because apparitions do decent damage if you can get a bunch of them out. And you get Insanity from those apparitions. More Insanity means more Devouring Plagues, which is always better for a Shadow Priest. And then Screams of the Void is a must, especially with the build that is right here, because it makes your dots tick faster, which can make Shadowy Insight proc, which can make your Shadow Pains crit, which can make because based on the crit chance, and then you get more Insanity per tick of your Vampiric Touch. So all this just works really well together, in my opinion, especially when you send a go. Now that being said, if you don't want to run Dark Thoughts, I do think you can run Tormented Spirits instead, because it procs a lot. Like the Tormented Spirit talent actually procs a lot. So you get a lot more Insanity and just a little bit more spread pressure if you're not able to cast too much in certain scenarios. If you don't want that, you could theoretically run Mind's Eye, Mind Devour. I'm sorry. The proc on your Mind Blast for a Devouring Plague. We don't really cast Mind Blast that often. It's an 8% chance. You might be lucky to get one every couple. Realistically, like I got it every like 6 or 7 Mind Blasts. That's not worth it, in my opinion, for a talent. You know, the overall is too weak, and you get one from every time you use your Void Weaver when you summon your Rift with your Void Torrent. So I don't know. I can't see myself using this. Adam Nazoth was super OP and it became dispellable. So now that it's dispellable, it's really hard to actually get 200 stacks, which is the big damage. You might get a couple 50s here and there, but your dots get dispelled really quickly before you reach that 100 stacker. Again, because it's dispellable. If it wasn't dispellable, this would be the best talent in the game for Shadow Priest, for pressure, for just damage in general. Because on PTR with full gear, it procs for 3 mil, sometimes 5 million. But again, since it's dispellable and it only works on direct hits, it doesn't work on dot ticks like the old Nazoth used to. It literally only works if you're hitting the target with direct damage. So Mind Blast, using your flays on them. It's like dot ticks and your Psychic Link no longer affect its stacking. So if they change this to where it works on dots ticking, I would still pick it up even though it's dispellable, because they wouldn't be able to dispel all of them. But as of right now, I don't think it's worth it. As of right now, I'm running a talent. This is my challenge choice right here. Let's go ahead and lock this in just to save it. This is my current build on the Shadow Tree. And like I said, based on what you're running, you can run Shattered Psyche. You can run more of a spread pressure like this build. And then I think that works really well for the current Void River tree with Void Volley. Your go is really easy. It's pretty much the exact same as it was last season. All right, you're going to put up your dots. And then you're going to go and throw out your Void Fiend for Insanity. You're going to get your Dark Ascension and PI up, throw out your Devouring Plague, channel your Void Torrent, and then you can go ahead and pump your Void Blast, and then just start spamming when you have your Devouring Plagues up. And when you see, I got 2 Mind Blast procs there in that little bit of time. So I got 2 freed Void Blasts without casting because of Dark Thoughts and Screams of the Void. So that's pretty much all you're going to do in that kind of go. And then since I was talking for a second, but we'll do it one more time just to show you. You'll put your Void Fiend, Dark Ascension, and then you're gonna put up your Devouring Plague. You're gonna go ahead and Void Volley or Void Torrent. Start spamming your Devouring Plagues when they're up. If you can cast Void Blast, do it. So I got another proc, and then you're gonna finish them with a Void Volley, because Void Volley does insane damage. Right now, it's doing where's that? 300,000 on the target. Sometimes it does a lot more. Sometimes you'll get 500,000. After the nerf, it's doing like 250,000 ish. I've noticed when I put my old gear on, when I made a new character on the PTR. And then when I put the real gear on, it was doing like 500,000 to 600,000. So it's still gonna be really good to finish. But that's the one thing why this is such a good ability in every tree, whether that be Archon or Void Weaver, is because of the simple fact that let's say you don't even have, you're not even playing Ire, right? Because it does get buffed by Ire. But let's say you're not playing Ire and you still send it out there, it still does 200,000 damage right now with no Ire. So about 260,000. So about 200-ish, 220,000 after the nerf. That's still a couple million, right? That's about what, 2 million, a little over 2 million damage. That's 20% of someone's health right there, even after the nerf. It's a great finisher compared to Death that does 130,000 one time, right? Like that's that's bad. But yeah, so like I love Void Volley right now because of the simple fact that you can just send it at somebody when they're trying to LOS. It's just a great finisher. So that's how you're gonna do your go, right? Put your dots up, which you have 2 Shadow Crashes now, right? So you don't have to actually even cast. So you're gonna get your 2 Shadow Crashes out, and then you're just gonna send your go. So that's all you do your go nowadays. One thing I will say is always make sure out of the gate you go ahead and Halo, so you have the Insanity to get a Devouring Plague up. If you don't don't Halo the opener, when you pull up your Dark Ascension, you won't have a Devouring Plague. So you want to Halo into a Shadow Crash, right? When you're starting your go, and then that way when you pop your Dark Ascension, you have enough Insanity for a Devouring Plague, or else you won't have enough Insanity for a Devouring Plague. So just make sure you do that in the opener. So that way when you're ready to go, it's instant. You're not having to cast Mind Blast or Mind Flays to try to stack up your go. Make sure you get that Insidious Ire in there because it buffs all of your big damage. Void Torrent, Void Blast, Mind Blast, Void Volley, all of it. And then if you can LOS your go without being kicked, that's also a huge plus, right? So put up your Devouring Plague, and if you can just LOS behind a pillar and then come out, that's also huge, so you don't get kicked. Little bit of things that I like to do in Arena is before my go, try to get my Void Torrent fully channeled for the damage, and then come out. Or else a lot of time you have to juke, right? So that being said, a little bit of talking for that, but yeah, you know me, I like to rant and give you guys ideas. So yeah, that's this. For Archon, I can't change while I'm in combat, so wait for this little tentacle to disappear. Sorry, guys. Okay, we're gonna go Archon now. Archon, since Archon got buffed with the Halo and Mind Flay also, you want to go the Mind Flay talent. But I do think going the Apparition talents are extremely important because you spawn a lot of Apparitions when you Mind Flay, and you get a lot of Mind Flays. And your Foresight gives you more Halos, which gives you more Mind Flays. So I do think that if you're playing Archon, you want to make sure you go for the Halo increase, and then the Apparition talents, the critical strike increase, doing more damage when you have Devouring Plague on them, Apparitions, and then the proc. And then Screams of the Void is good because it makes all these things proc. So I do think you just drop Ire, you drop Cthulhu. You don't have to drop Cthulhu. It is good damage too. I just think it's nice to have all Apparition talents, and that's what really matters for your pad damage as Archon. So I drop the Cthulhu talents and go this way. So yeah. And then your go in Archon is trying to spread damage as much as possible. Because since Psychic Link got buffed to 40%, all of your single target damage, so your Mind Flays and everything, outside of your Apparitions and dots, are going to cleave. So you want to try to get everyone dotted on your go. And your Halo does like 1 million damage right now. So you want to get your Shadow Fiend up, and then you want to pop your damage during your go, right? You try to get your Void Torrent up, either before or during your go, and then start spamming Apparitions on everybody with your Divine Plagues, and then look at that. I'm just spamming Apparitions with my Mind Flays, and then I can throw a volley in whenever I want because it's not like it's Void Torrent wise or Void Weaver wise where I have to spam Void Blast, and you can try to use it as a finisher if you want to as well. But you really want to spread your damage on multiple targets in Archon because they're all gonna get hella cleaved down by your I wonder if I'll show all of it by your Mind Flays. Like my Mind Flays are ticking for 800 to 1,000 to 1 million right now. That's just a lot of damage. Like if you could free cast as Archon or play Affy Shadow Priest if Affy's good, or even NES play and you want to play Archon, I think it's viable because your free casting is insane, and it's a 1 minute go, so it's a longer go to come back up, but you get a lot of sustain in between there. And with your 4 set, your go lasts like 30 seconds, so you only have really 30 seconds of downtime. So same thing I recommend doing always out of the gate: Halo, get near people, Dark Ascension, throw up your Shadow Crash on multiple targets, and while everybody's stacking with the resin energy and you're getting your stacks of Mind Flay, then you can start Mind Flaying targets. You can Void Torrent in between to juke a kick maybe. Mind Flay, Mind Flay, Mind Flay, Void Volley, Mind Flay, right? Like, look at these apparitions just fucking farming, right? Like, I'm doing a whole bunch of damage with apparitions here. Sorry. And Mind Flays. And look at the Psychic Link damage. Halo ticking for 1 million. 1.6 crits, it looks like. But yeah, so if you can free cast as Archon, you got a lot of spread pressure through Psychic Link and apparitions. And you can always tab target, right? You can tab target someone. Every 30 seconds, you can get a Void Volley off to do consistent pressure. So, yeah, in my opinion, I think this is what works with Archon the best, is the spread pressure build. But again, you can run whatever. I tried Subservient Shadows. I tried Mindbender. I tried a pet build. I tried using Cthulhu with the pet build because it counts as a pet. And in my opinion, the pets do very little damage compared to what you can put things into. Like, your apparition spreading will be more efficient than having pets out. Your big one-shots with your ire are more important than, I think, having Subservient Shadow. So, like, you have to spread talents away to get to there, and I don't think that's very good. One other thing I want to get into real quick and talk about is there is a secondary build that's all about one-shot that I didn't go into, but you can, if you're trying to get, like, big, juicy one-shot Void Blast only, go into Mastermind here, and you could drop your proc thoughts and your Cthulhu, and you could have Shattered Psyche, and you could have the Mastermind talent that gives you 40% crit damage on your Void Blast and your deaths and all that, but it really only matters for Void Blast. So you could get a Shattered Psyche on your go, you could get Ire up, and you would have Mastermind, and you could do 4 million Void Blast. I just wouldn't count on this one. This is very gimmicky, and you get a lot of your pressure in between is going to be down. Your insanity generators are going to be down. You can't guarantee procs on your go as often. I would say it's really good for a one shot if you can get it off, but at the same time you're kind of banking on the let's get the one shot, right? So you could guarantee yourself a crit Void Blast with this build if you stack up your Shattered Psyche beforehand. All right. So like I was saying, if you could try to build up your Shattered Psyche earlier on this one shot, it comes in a lot bigger handy because you get a giant go beforehand. So, like, if you can get behind a pillar or just get your insanity built up before the go, knowing you're gonna try to do this one shot, get your dots up, go into Dark Ascension, throw out your Devouring Plague, so you have the big ire, start spamming, right? Yeah, you have a Mind Flame Sanity, start building your Shattered Psyche. I have a proc going, and then boom, almost 3 million right there, right? And then you can throw out your 600k ticks there. I got another instant proc, but you might get lucky and get a couple of them in your go and get a big crit Void Blast, right? Like almost 3 million there. You could do that. I just think it requires a lot of channeling because you're trying to get this Shattered Psyche up for the guarantee the Mastermind. Because this whole thing is you want the crit. And if you're not playing this, you just want to hope you get a crit. This one kind of relies on you getting the big crit on this go. And, again, it's gimmicky. You could do it. I just think it's more important to get consistent pressure and damage out than trying to do a gimmick. So I like having, big, stronger Mind Flay Sanities. So I have big damage on my go. I might get a Dark Thoughts proc that would give me an instant Void Blast. I have a Void Torrent to follow up with a Void Volley. So see, I already have a Dark Dots proc again. So I know I can get a guaranteed instant Void Blast here. I'd rather do something like that and start spamming damage in. Maybe free cast now and then finish off with a volley. And then I now have another instant Mind Blast. I think it's more important to follow up with the consistent pressure than to try to stack your Shattered Psyche to get this Mastermind. So, because or else you're playing Mastermind for no reason. Because you want to get the crit, or instead of just hoping for a crit. Because the crit with Shattered Psyche isn't based around your gameplay. Well, this one, you know, you lose the instant proc that you could just send. You lose your consistent pressure and your insanity generator through Cthulhu, right? So these are, I think, more important than trying to run through Mastermind and only holding Shattered Psyche for Mastermind. And again, if you get CC'd and you lose your Mastermind procs or your Shattered Psyche procs, kind of kills the go. You could play it. It's good. It's a big one shot. Probably better at lower ratings. But I personally wouldn't. I'd probably just stick to some sort of consistent pressure build, and I think it works better. So the only thing I really think, like I said, you could change is the possibility of having a good go on this one over the pressure, just for the chance of getting a nice damage out here. But you're not trying to fish only for it. So that's my opinion on the builds for both Archon and for Voidweaver, and then our gear is going to be this 4-set over... Where's it at? Campsite? No. Appearances? What's it under? No, it's under Adventure Guide. We're going to go, in my opinion, head, shoulders, chest, and hands instead of the pants. Because you get haste, versatility, haste, and mastery is our second best. You could go crit mastery for the pants over the hands. I just think 1,000 haste is a lot. And with as much casting we're still going to have to do, in my opinion, I think it's probably just those 4. But let's say we have a good amount of stats and you have a good amount of mastery and you just want a little bit more crit based on your playstyle, since there are some crit talents here. You could go for the pants. It's just we don't have a lot of crit to begin with. I think it's like 8% we get on our gear. So, like, even speccing more crit isn't going to make that big of a difference, while getting 1% mastery will. 1% mastery is 3% damage. So, I do think that comes into effect better. Mastery is the better secondary. So, that's just my opinion. And like I said, that's the gear, and that's the stats we're going for. Yeah, that's about it. I don't really think there's anything else I want to talk about. You should get your Reshi wraps. For now, I think when they're max leveled, they are better than honor gear and possibly conch gear, because I think the item level it gets up to is higher. So I would say try to farm these out and keep them up just in case we need to use them. And don't forget to do delves and dungeons this week to get your chance at tier, because they did allow the vault to be pre-used for next week. So if you fill your vault up this week, it won't give you Season 2 gear. It'll give you Season 3 gear. So I've been doing it on my SPs mostly today. And as you see, it says item level 671, 681 here. So that's going to be PvE item level for next season. And then you can upgrade it into Conquest gear with the conversion tool, which is, hold on. I think it's in right now. I'm pretty sure you can. That tool's in now, or the conquest thing's in now. Which, let me go to the vendor real quick. Yeah, right here. So you buy this instead of buying a piece of gear, and convert your tier piece that you possibly get into the PvP item level. So you get a guaranteed chance at a 3-set. If you get 1 piece of tier, you can get 3-set on week 1, right? For hitting 16 or 1800, I think it is, you get a tier token, and then your 1-set piece for the week, so you can get 4-set really quickly, maybe 2 weeks earlier than other people, which is big for Shadow Priest, because our 4-set's the big part of our damage. So yeah, don't forget to do that. If you have any questions, let me know. Sorry for not making a video in so long, but yeah, we'll hit the gates opening. I'll be streaming all my 3s, all my solo shuffle. And yeah, so I'll see you guys in the next one.